I woke up to one of the more valuable things I own in my apartment, a crappy alarm clock from a nearby store. I was extremely poor. The apartment wasn't too nice. I had no TV or a car. I lived alone, so it was easy to keep my place clean at least, even though I was lacking a vacuum. I got ready for work at the dollar store near me. I walked there once I got ready, and got there at 8:50 or so, to see it was closed. I wish I had known what was coming. The streets were extra busy that day, and most places were closed. I never bothered to ask anyone why, though I wish I had, because I wouldn't have had to deal with the monsters. Come afternoon, I was eating a bland sandwich inside my room, wondering why people seemed to have left. I could hear rain heavily pounding outside, but I was used to that every once in a while. Not very many people were still here, and almost no people at all around where I lived. Around 12, I saw in the distance tons of water gushing around the streets, going wherever it could possibly flow. On my way home, I heard people talking about the levees. Did they break? I immediately went upstairs to the highest point I could, which wasn't too high. The wind was so strong, the water rose fast. Not too long later, the water was very close, and I had just fallen from the wind. No warnings in the increased speed of it. I just fell into the water before I could realize it. I immediately went under, a strong current moving me. I closed my eyes. It hurt to have them open with the water forcing me around. I just hoped I didn't hit anything. Almost every time when my lungs started aching, begging for air, I'd go above the surface for a few seconds, only to be pushed back down with a huge force again. At one point, I knew I had a little water in my lungs. I had breathed it in on accident. Once when my head had gone up again, I saw a tree coming up close and fast. I grabbed it without even thinking about it. The wind was unbelievably strong, but I climbed up the sturdy tree best I could. I stood there for what was probably only 5 minutes at the most, but it felt like forever. I saw a house coming towards me, straight for the tree. There was a section of the floating house that was broken. It looked tough to do, but I thought I could possibly jump onto it. And I did. I landed and hurt my hands and knees scraping in the building. I got up. I had made it. I was inside a house. The first thing I noticed was red smeared on the walls. Of course, the first thing I thought of was blood, and it seemed to be. Then I saw bloody, bare footprints leading to the downstairs of the house. For clarification, I wasn't in the house's attic. I decided to follow the bloody trail. Near the bottom of the stairs, the house trembled, making me fall the rest of the way down into a half-flooded kitchen. I got up, used to being soaked in the cold, bitter water. The water was the smallest bit above my waist, and I'm 6 feet 2 inches tall. I saw a fridge and sloshed my way to it. I was thinking I could stay here and wait it out. I opened the fridge to see that it too had been half filled with water, making most of the food displeasing to even think about eating. So I grabbed what I could from the fridge and took it upstairs. I had got half a pack of hot dogs, 2 Dr. peppers, and an unopened pack of pepper jack cheese. On the second trip, I looked in the freezer. The only thing in there was a small tub of peppermint chocolate chip ice cream that had little missing from it, though it was melting some due to the loss of electricity. I took a third trip down to see if there was anything else in the house, just forgetting about the blood. I guess I did when I had fallen. Even putting the food up there, I still hadn't re-noticed it. I left the kitchen through a doorway that led to the living room, with a hallway immediately to the left of the kitchen doorway. There was nothing much in the living room besides furniture, so I turned to the hallway. I saw some odd, stone-white, human-like creature with its back to me. I knew it couldn't have been human, though. There were no earlobes. It was so pale, skinny, and hunched in an extremely weird way. I tried to look past it, careful not to move at all. I saw the floating body of a man who was maybe 30 years old or so in the water. Then the house hit something again, and I fell and instinctively screamed, alerting the being to my presence. I got up as fast as I could and ran back to the stairs, but the water made my retreat very slow. But the creature waded through the water easily, possibly due to its skinny legs. I fell again from trying to go too fast in the water. I got up again and saw the front of it better than when I was trying to run. It had blood or whatever was red on most of its lower face, had sunken black eyes, and had no gender. I had gotten up again and pushed it as hard as I could away from me, and the creature being so skinny and light made that easy. It toppled over in the water easily, but got up easily as well. I was running up the stairs and noticed the water had rose a few inches, but it didn't matter much. It had only taken half of the next step. Once I got the stairs, I looked for a place to hide. I saw a door that most likely led into a room. I took it and found a closet inside. I didn't bother closing the door to the room behind me, which was stupid. I opened the closet door and quietly, but quickly closed it. I didn't even want to breathe. I heard it running around on the same floor as me. It was faster on land way more than in the water. It came into the room I was in. I held my breath. It stalked around the room. I was sure it opened the closet. It's a common hiding place. But I had to remember, this wasn't human. It wouldn't know that. I don't think. I could hear it leave the room and go back downstairs. I slowly opened the door, breathing heavily. It must have looked under the bed, then left. I think that because there was a blood trail next to the footprints that led from under the bed. I thought that the man was hiding under the bed in this same room, was found, injured enough to lose such a high amount of blood that by the time they got to the water, there was no blood in the man and very little blood on the creature's feet. I silently went out of the room and grabbed what contents of the fridge I had brought up here. I got to drink the melted ice cream, ate some hot dogs, and drank one warm, flat Dr. Pepper before I heard sloshing downstairs. I slowly went to check the stairs and saw two of the creature coming. I just knew that there was no way I could hide again. They creatures acted similar to feral ghouls off of Fallout 4, but looked nothing like one. They were fast, skinny, and relatively clumsy. I retreated to the edge of the gaping hole in the house that led outside. I saw them both come up, stare at me for half a second, then run towards me. I dodged out of the way at the last second and saw both of them fall out. My plan worked, so I thought. I stood there, shocked I had actually pulled that off when something grabbed my foot and pulled me down off of the house. Of course, it was one of the, well, things. I hit the water hard on my back after a small drop from the house, pulled by a current again. I kept going and going until I hit hard on something in the water. I was being pushed against it. It was hard to swim up because I was stuck between whatever I ran into and the unending force of the water. I reached up with my hands and felt something flat connected to whatever I was stuck against. I pulled myself up and took a deep breath of air. I was on top of some kind of truck, like a large U-Haul. I had no idea how it was above the water. Sure, only a little of it was. I couldn't even see the cab, but still. I looked around, just water and debris. The truck was stuck against a building, a hotel or something. Water was still rising. I had to get in. But how? There was a window, but I doubt I could smash it with just my body. As if on key, a wooden board floated towards me. I thought that I could use it to break the glass. It was hard, sturdy, and new. I cracked the glass, but didn't break through. I was standing on the edge of the truck searching for something hard, but instead I saw many of the weird creatures swimming, as if it were abnormal pool. The current had no effect on them. I fell backwards into the glass, breaking it. I was surprised I did, but I'm sure it was because the glass had lost integrity from the cracks. I had cuts all over me, but I didn't care. I was in a room for guests. I headed to the door quickly and opened it. I knew I wouldn't be able to go back in to escape, but I needed to get higher and I needed to get away from the murderous creatures. I found the staircase and went up as high as I could. I couldn't go into the roof. The door to roof access was locked. I stood by the elevators. They were the only place besides the inaccessible rooms that was away from the long hallway. I watched the staircase. Hours went by, how many I don't know. My watch fell off in the water. It was a bad one anyways. I could tell the water had risen more in the hotel. 2 elevator shafts were stuck open, and one had an elevator pretty far down, and water now covered the top of the elevator. The other elevator was far down as well, but water hadn't covered it yet. Then I heard a herd of footsteps. My heart sank. It was them. I saw them rise the stairs. Why hadn't they come earlier? It has been hours, and now they come up. Why? They gained quickly. I saw what happened to the man. It looked painful. They gained. I could only think of one thing to make sure that didn't happen to me. I walked over to the elevator, and as they turned the corner, I jumped in the one undisturbed by water, head first. It seemed surprisingly peaceful and seemed to happen in slow motion. I think I saw 2 or 3 follow after me. I hit the top of the elevator and was instantly gone. At least I wouldn't have to see them anymore. They were made for the water. Meant for it. I'll never see them again, thankfully, unless there's water in hell.